Hello. Madrid is the only European capital city to have been founded by a Muslim ruler. Now, I wouldn't be surprised if you had never heard this, even though this is the generally accepted academic view, because there's always been a certain section of people who want to create a counter-narrative that, in fact, the more recent one is that, in fact, it was a Visigoth settlement originally. But I hope in this episode to blow those stories out of the water. My name is Felicity Hughes. I'm a journalist and tour guide living here in the city of Madrid. And you may have seen my work in Lonely Planet or the Financial Times. And this podcast is called The Making of Madrid. It's a podcast or vlogcast that you can also watch, where you can learn about the history of Madrid, learn about its culture, and also get some tips for traveling to the city. I decided to make this particular episode because I'm just launching my new audio tour of medieval Madrid on VoiceMap. In fact, it's already launched. You can go and buy it, but it was a bit of a soft, quiet launch. And I'm really happy with it. And of course, one of the issues I deal with, because I'm talking about medieval Madrid, is that Madrid was founded in the 9th century by Mohammed I of Cordoba. Anyway, let's get back to the topic of today, which is the fact that the founding of Madrid, the origins of Madrid proper. So Madrid was never an important place during the Roman occupation, during the subsequent Visigoth occupation. It was just a sort of backwater, really, countryside. The most important place was, in fact, Toledo. And when the Muslims came and took over the Iberian Peninsula to create the Kingdom of Al-Andalus, there was a ruler called Mohammed I of Cordoba, who I've mentioned already. Now, he had a problem. So the initial occupation of the Iberian Peninsula began in 711. But by the 9th century, there were Christian uprisings in Toledo, which was a very important city to the Muslim rulers because it was a great center of learning. There was a massive library there, and they wanted to consolidate. Well, Mohammed I wanted to consolidate his position. So he created a line of watchtowers in front of Toledo. Madrid was one of them. And the place was called Mayrit because there wasn't much there, but what there was a network of waterways, which is Mayra, a word that derives from Romanesque but became into Arabic, meaning network of waterways, and it is place of in Arabic. So Mayrit was a fortress that was built where the royal palace and the cathedral of the Almudena now is. A fortified location so that when they saw Christian invaders coming down from the north, fires could be lit and the alarm sounded, and so the Christian rebels in Toledo would not be able to link up with Christian invaders to the north. Now, this wasn't a very inconvenient fact when Philip II came and settled a court in Madrid in 1561, effectively making Madrid the capital city of his empire, of Spain, of the Iberian Peninsula. Well, and let's forget about Portugal for the time being. Anyhow, he had a problem here because while, you have many other cities that have different origins, Cadiz, for instance, was founded by the Phoenicians, where I've just been for a wonderful holiday, by the way. Go to Cadiz. It's incredible. Madrid was founded by a Muslim ruler And this fact was pretty obvious because the original walls of Madrid were, of Muslim origin, of Islamic origin. And therefore, lots of buildings got built on top of these walls, which were very sturdy. They're made with flint with a filler of lime. And this sort of this covered up these original city walls. He used the Alcazar, in fact, as his palace, but he had lots of different bits bolted onto it. And then that was later lost to us when there was a great fire in the palace. And everything came down with the Bourbons, and so we don't have any idea of what this original Alcazar was. But more recently, of course, any building work done in the area began to reveal these original walls that you can actually go and see. And I'm going to come back to that later because that's a weird thing, that it's very difficult to go and visit Madrid's city walls. Well, it was very difficult until they built the Galería de Colecciones Reales more recently. Anyhow, so this is quite inconvenient for far-right sort of Christian peoples. They don't like this narrative that Madrid was originally a Muslim city. And, oh, sorry, my cat's meowing right now. Maybe he doesn't like it either. What they started to try and say, which was a little bit more plausible, that Madrid must have been founded by the Romans. Now, this is a lot more plausible because if you go to the Museo de San Isidro, which is all about the origins of Madrid, there you can see, like Roman remains, a wonderful mosaic that was found near to where Madrid was founded, but not near enough. It was actually founded, there was a Roman villa found out by Carabanchel. Now we know there was a Roman road out there, that the Muslim rulers liked to use Roman infrastructure, but there was never a Roman settlement actually in Madrid itself. Then we get this other weird narrative cropping up, that Madrid was a Visigoth settlement. Now, I'm going to come to that a bit later because that's absolute nonsense. But let's go in consecutive order of what was found. So, around the 1990s, there was a lot of work done under the Plaza de Oriente. Now, if you don't know what the Plaza de Oriente is, I'll explain. It's a beautiful square, kind of crescent-shaped square out, or half moon, I should say, out in front of the palace with lovely hedgerows and lots of statues. It's a lovely kind of elegant garden. But there's a car park underneath it. Like many places in Madrid, Madrid is very busy city and we're constantly getting car parks, whether we want them or not. But that's a story for another day. They built this underground car park, and anytime you dig anywhere there, you just come under so much rich archaeological history. And what they found underground was all evidence of a Muslim settlement. So lots of ceramics. Now, they were very well known for their ceramics. I was saying before that the Muslims of Al-Andalus built on Roman infrastructure. So the Romans used Hispania, or the Iberian Peninsula, as a great source for clay pots. And so did the Muslims. And they built upon this technology as they made the clay non-porous. So there's all these clay pots with a lovely veneer on the front, which, a glaze, I should say, that means that the clay can be used again and again. Whereas with the Romans, they would have to just use them once and throw them away after, they'd use their amphoras for wine or whatever. Or olive oil, indeed. But yeah, they found all these lovely clay from Al-Andalus. They found silos and just tons and tons of evidence of this settlement that gradually grew into becoming Medina, because the farming was quite good here. You have these great lots and lots of waterways. Mayrit grew and prospered, and they found tons of evidence of this in the car park. Now, what happened to all this stuff? Well, there is an 11th century watchtower that you can go into. I took a video of this, so hopefully I can pop this on top. And you go into the car park and you can see this 11th century watchtower. The weird thing is it has not been signposted whatsoever. And that's so strange because, it's a really important part of the city's archaeological history. No signposting. In fact, I added it to the Atlas Obscura because I thought people might want to go and see this. And it's on my tour indeed as well. The Medieval Madrid tour on Voice Map. Sorry, just giving it another little plug there. The other place where you can go and see it is if you can manage to find someone coming out of another car park entrance in the Plaza de Oriente, there's a small display. Now, I found this quite by chance with some friends a few years ago when we were trying to find the Muslim origins of the city, and someone came out the car park and let us in. And this should be a public display, but it's behind lock and key. Again, I've got a video that I'm going to superimpose on this video so you can see just how you can't access that. And the rest of the remains, you would think, would go to the Museo de San Isidro, which is the Museum of the Origins of Madrid, just not a stone's throw, but quite a short way away in La Latina. Well, in fact, they all got carted off to Alcalá de Henares. Now, I interviewed the director of the museum a few years ago when they opened up a section of the wall in the Galería de Colecciones Reales. And he was really, really peeved that they don't get any of this stuff. They have some of it that was found, but the vast majority went way out of town to the birthplace of Cervantes, Alcalá de Henares, which is actually a town that was founded by the Romans and has this kind of history that some might prefer for Madrid. Anyway, let's continue on. Well, as I was talking about before, the town expanded into a medina. And, of course, a medina needs a mosque. So we think that the mosque is underneath the remains of the Cathedral de la Almudena on Calle Mayor. And this is another weird one, not at all signposted again. There's no way to know that archaeologists think this is the probable remains of the mosque, because it's not said. And the reason it's not said, I believe, is possibly because when these things are sort of inaugurated, it depends on whether you have the left or right in charge. And I'm afraid the right-wing government has been rather guilty of not properly calling for this stuff to be properly signposted. So again, I took some video just yesterday of this, and you can see that the glass topping showing the remains of the Cathedral de la Almudena is all dusty. The reason why we think there's quite strong evidence that this was the Medina, but not mentioned that it's the Medina, is that the Madrid was finally conquered by Alfonso of Castile, and he basically went around changing any kind of major mosque into a church. It's a bit of a power move. He did that in Toledo. You can actually see that stuff in Toledo. But it's not there in Madrid. And I would say that if you are interested in medieval history, Toledo is the place to go, because Toledo's history does stretch back all the way to the Romans, and then the Visigoths, and then the Muslims, and then so on and so on. And it's really well preserved. In fact, Toledo was a contender to be the capital of Spain. No one quite knows why Felipe chose not to make it the capital of Spain, but that's to our great advantage, to history buffs' great advantage. Because of that, everything has been so well preserved, because the Cathedral of the Almudena, in fact, was knocked down in the 19th century to make way for Calle Mayor to be widened. So, the capital needs a lot of infrastructure. It needs car parks and big main roads. And so all this lovely history sort of gets wiped out, or lovely historical buildings anyway. If you do want to get an idea of, if you do want to see a very old church that was built by Muslim artisans, you can just go around the corner, by the way, to the San Nicolas Real. And that's a 12th century church. Now, I just visited it again to show you what it looks like, because you can see that it's got a square tower, horseshoe arches, design elements that are very typical of Islamic art that was very much admired when the Christians took over initially, and was, they commissioned Muslim artisans to make them things. But a lot of people sort of incorrectly believe that San Nicolas was a mosque. In fact, we don't think that it was ever a mosque. The dates are very close, because it's 12th century and Madrid was taken by the Christians in 1083. But it's not quite right. So, yeah, it's got a beautiful ceiling, by the way, and there's a mudéjar ceiling inside, which was built a bit later. But to be honest, that's not my fate. Don't worry if you don't catch it open, because you can rarely catch this church open. But you can go to the Museo Archaeological de Madrid, which is filled with there's a bit on Muslim Spain, and they've got these beautiful vari-coloured ceilings that are just gobsmacking. In fact, you'll hurt your neck looking up in these beautiful buildings. Okay, so this is going to be a two-parter, I think, because there's quite a lot to say. So I'll leave things there, and I'm going to say that the next episode will start out with the Christian reconquest of Madrid, why that term is a little bit tricky. But for now, please keep watching. Please buy my audio tour of medieval Madrid that deals with a lot of this history, or visit my website and get yourself a copy of Quiet Madrid. And if you don't have any money, don't worry. There's a freebie on my website as well, which is a guide to all the places that I wasn't able to include in the Lonely Planet guide. So it's called Madrid Beyond the Guidebook, and that's a freebie, and you can subscribe to my newsletter by doing that. Anyway, thanks for watching, and look out for part 2.